So the scene starts off with a trading room in a major New York bank. And the main trader screams out and says, everybody hang up the phone and listen very carefully. And the scenario goes like this. Listen, everybody. The Arabs yanked all of their money out of our bank, and it's not just us, it's across the board. Everybody's been hit. So we're going to be scrambling for liquidity. We want it all sold. Fannie Mae's, Freddie Mac's, T-bills, T-bonds, Euro dollars, anything you've got out there, it all has to be sold. We're going to be scrambling for dollars. Bullion, grab whatever you can get and pray. And then pandemonium takes place, and all these trades start going off, and it's just crazy in the trading room. And of course, you got to realize that this same scenario is taking place all throughout New York City, the financial capital of the world, and of course London and Zurich and everywhere else. And everybody's selling everything they can to put it into dollars so that they can pay back the Arabs what they owe them, right? Well, as this is unfolding, one of the traders comes up to the desk and she starts explaining to the head trader, that the stock market's already off 10% in a matter of minutes. The dollar's already fallen over 15%. That they yanked the euro deposits that weren't due. I mean, this is just absolute pandemonium. And so then you find this very wise trader, this Wall Street stalwart, if you will, and he just looks at her and she says, and gold just went over $2,000 an ounce. And he says, looks her right in the eye and says, that'll be cheap by tonight. And then he turns around and he picks up the phone and he calls his wife. And he says, honey, it's me, and I'd like you to listen to me very carefully. I want you to go in the closet and get a suitcase and get down to the bank. And then it cuts. And it shows a scene outside of a bank in Manhattan. And the banker is taking bundles of dollar bills and throwing them outside the bank. And there's people scrambling and screaming all over. And then it cuts again, and it shows a newscaster. And he says, this scene outside of Manhattan Bank took place all over the world last week as Arab investors withdrew billions of dollars out of U.S. banks, and the currency collapsed. It didn't matter if it was yen, euros, dollars. Every currency became worthless overnight. And then that's basically the end of the scene. And will that happen? Probably not. And I do it for two reasons. I do it for shock value and also to teach people that a stock has to be converted to cash, a bond has to be converted to cash, any investment has to be converted to cash, because in very few instances can I sign my stock certificate for Newmont Mining over to you, Walter, to buy your used car from you. You might be able to, but it's a big negotiation, and as soon as I hand it to you, the fluctuation in Newmont Mining shares, you might not get as much as you wanted for the car. You might get more, but you don't want to take the risk. You want it in cash. And that's a liquidity squeeze. Everything has to be moved into that element. So it's a teaching tool. I usually, get some hard stares as I walk off the platform, but I can take it. I mean, it's a very big wake-up call. Will that exist again? No, probably not. In fact, I wrote about it in my newsletter, and the Arabs would be crazy to do something like that because it'd be, cutting their own throats, so to speak. But the point is that something like that could happen inadvertently. It doesn't take all of the money coming out of the bank. In fact, in today's market being so topsy-turvy and so skittish, you might see a major withdrawal of maybe 1% of a fund somewhere that has a compounding effect, especially in an over-leveraged market, which we've been in for so long. And I think the best way to wrap this up is the derivatives market. When you've got one bank in the United States that basically has a derivative exposure that's in the trillions of dollars, I mean, it basically is so vulnerable to something like this taking place that most people don't even, one, realize that it exists, or two, what the implications are. But Warren Buffett, arguably one of the best investors in modern times, has said that it's financial mass destruction. That's what these derivatives represent, and I believe he's correct. So we're living in interesting times. I don't think you have to wrap it up, you have to be overly concerned about it. I think you have to be aware of it and informed about it and take it into your heart and what can be your best way to go on with your normal life. And that is, I think, take 5 or 10% of your holdings, put it into real money, and forget about it. Will it take place tomorrow? No. Will it take place? I believe it may. There's no guarantee that it will. But you will have the peace of mind knowing that you've done your best to prepare on a financial basis for a possibility that it could take place. If it doesn't, you've got some asset that's probably going to increase in paper terms in a very, very nice way over the next several years. So definitely one of the best sleep tonics I can think of from a financial aspect. So that's how I'd wrap it up.